How's it going, muchachos? Your boy Stu here. Listen, we are halfway through January at this point, so quick round of applause for everyone. Well done, you made it. But that does mean it's time to sit down and talk about that dancing robot killer AI doll film, doesn't it? And guys, I hope you're seated because this wasn't the worst film I've ever seen. So M3GAN, if you have not heard about it, is the latest in the oopsies, we made a big uh-oh with this AI we made. Everything's going to shit genre of films. It's a Blumhouse film in which a toy creator makes the newest evolution in children's toys, which just happens to be a full life-size child AI girl. M3GAN, if you will. I'll level with you guys, up until about a week ago, I was firmly in the this looks like trash, I don't want to see this camp from M3GAN. And then it sort of showed to people, and some of the responses weren't awful. So I didn't really know what was going on there. I was waking up in cold sweats, just shaking, completely covered in sweat, crying often, most nights. It was a really horrible, dark period. But I was finally shown the film. I don't know why I made that sound like an interrogation situation. Like, it's just me and the film in a dingy, dark little room, naked, chained to a chair, get my balls whacked like Daniel Craig. That wasn't how it went down. But we'll cut to the chase. What's going on? This film was a hoot. This one is directed by Gerard Johnston and is written by Kayla Cooper, who most recently penned *Malignant*. That film was a gosh darn fucking wonder. And here she's kind of leaning again into that sort of absurd, silly realm of the horror genre. And it's on the whole a pretty effective stab at that. This is a really fun film that thankfully knows what it is enough to be able to get through all of the just stupid, ridiculous shit it throws at us. Right from the opening toy commercial, it's very quickly establishing the sort of tone that it wants to set up for this film, and it never really lets that go. But I will say that I think it's much more of a comedy than a horror overall, which was a bit more of a surprise to me as well. That makes it a really fun time in the cinema, and I think is making it much more of a overall hit with audiences that are seeing it than everyone expected. And I did like the sort of themes, I guess, this film touches on and the conceptual stuff in there on the whole. You might sense a little bit of trepidation in the way I talk about that, because there are still things in here that I did find a little bit eye-rolling, and I think broadly that whole kind of creator making an AI thing and it going wrong is a concept we've obviously seen done before in cinema, and M3GAN isn't doing much new there. I don't think it's really trying to, in so much as it's just trying to do something a little bit more modern and current. But I find that concept broadly to be a little bit sort of worn out at this point, and I was worried going into this film that it would have this overall kind of boomer, let's call it what it is, that kind of boomer ideology where you're like, shut up, old man. That is definitely still a part of the film, and I think the points that worked the least for me were when it kind of feels like it falls back on the generic kind of tech is bad and kids aren't playing outside anymore kind of ideology. I don't know, something about that always tends to kind of make my eyes roll a little bit. But I liked that it did also use that to offer up some more interesting thematic avenues for the characters to work in, namely the idea of technology kind of replacing certain elements that children need in their development. I think that's a good enough and interesting enough thread to warrant doing the whole AI killer robot doll thing around it. I do wish, however, it had done a little bit more with that. And I'm not asking it to go into this kind of big, deep thesis on what childhood development means. And obviously the film isn't trying to do that and doesn't really feel like it's interested in doing that. I think it's quite clear throughout this film that it's using those themes as a springboard to do silly, self-aware, fun shit. And that's good, and that's what I enjoy about the film. But I do think that as we come to the film's climax and as it sort of shifts its gear, as it were, into the stuff that we've all kind of come here to see, it feels like it sort of lazily expects to be able to gloss over certain things just because it is doing this kind of silly self-aware thing, when I do think it still needs a little bit more thematically. I'm trying to explain that without spoiling things, but I guess the biggest example would be in the relationship between our central characters, the aunt and the daughter of the deceased parents at the beginning of the film. Their relationship is a central thread of the film, and it uses that quite well through the middle part of the film. But in the last act, it sort of feels like it skips a couple of beats, and it expects us to have just jumped along to the resolution of that relationship. Where the relationship starts and ends in the film makes sense on paper, but in practice, I feel like it's just missing a couple of stops along the way. And the more I think about it, the more I think part of that might come down to the fact that particularly an essential character played by Alison Williams here, who does do a great job through the film and is a lot of fun to watch on screen. But her character feels a lot like the most frustrating element in many situations in the film. I kind of feel like they really dumb her down and make her do stupid shit for the sake of getting the concept to land and for the sake of getting the situations to go to these crazy, silly, absurd places. But it's like in doing that, they forgot that they need to, I don't know, not make that character completely stupid. And that was a shame, because I think the film's smart enough to be able to come up with interesting reasons for those things happening without just needing it to be the central character was an idiot. And I also think it could have benefited from a little bit more in the horror department as well. I think it sort of feels a little bit at times like it's trying to remember that it needs to pull the old horror gear stick, right? But when things do get going good and proper, it is a lot of fun to watch the inevitable stuff we know is coming go down. I'm not entirely sure how long this is going to stick around in my memory. I'm not entirely sure that it's doing a huge amount, particularly groundbreaking or new. And yeah, sure, it's filled with a bunch of different problems here or there in the film, but overall, it knows what it is. It does what it needs to do to land a solid time in the cinema. It's a good laugh. It's super entertaining. I can't believe I enjoyed M3GAN. I can't quite believe I'm sat here saying it. So good work, M3GAN with a 3. Yeah. But what about you guys? Have you seen M3GAN yet? Are you gonna catch M3GAN? You probably are, let's face it. It's out over here in the UK tomorrow. It has been out in the States, I believe, for about a week or so now. So if you've caught the film, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments down below. We'll have a little chat. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see me talk about more shit, go ahead and click subscribe. Buttons down there for that. As well as links to my socials and or my letterbox, where you can follow me and see my up-to-date thoughts on films when I'm seeing them. I'll see you guys soon for some more thoughts on more films, but until next time, I think I just need to lie down for a bit and just process the fact that this film didn't suck. Mental?